Our speaker today is Vered Kogan, an award-winning speaker, trainer, certified high-performance coach. She has a passion for helping leaders and teams build their resilience capacity and create rapid change.
Vered is the CEO of the Moment Institute, a leadership training and coaching organization. She is accredited by the International Coach Federation, certified pro-sci change practitioner, and HeartMath Institute. There we go. Trainer. And if she isn't busy enough, she also hosts a top-rated weekly podcast called The Mindset Game, which features interviews from leading experts on how to thrive in today's world. Come on up here, Vered.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Well, I imagine that you're all here today at this awesome annual luncheon because you're here to connect with some old friends, maybe to form some new friendships, or some of those partnerships that we've been hearing about, or collaborations. Maybe you're here for the roast beef and potatoes and have some fun. And maybe you're here to also learn a few things. Learn how to strengthen your organizations, how to strengthen this awesome Redmond community and Central Oregon community that we've heard about. And most importantly, to strengthen yourself, which is what this particular presentation is all about. It is all about you, how to manage your own inner state during times of change so that you could best be there for the people in your life, for your coworkers, your family members, your community members, your peers, and co-create something even better together. So speaking of change, right, all of these different developments that have been going on here, growth, how many of you, by show of hands, are experiencing some kind of change, personal or professional, at this moment right now? Oh my goodness, look at all the hands. Of course, many of us are experiencing changes. And so it is very important to learn how we can best adapt to these changes, how we can best show up during these times of uncertainty and sometimes chaos. So let's go ahead and do a quick exercise. I invite you to go ahead and stand up for a moment. It'll just be a moment. Hopefully we won't torture you too much here. And what I invite you to do is actually very simple. In fact, you've done it hundreds of times. I want you to go ahead and cross your arms as you normally would. Very cool. Notice how that feels. Now, go ahead and uncross them and cross them the other way. Yeah. All right, share with me. I'd love to hear from some of you. What did you just experience? What just happened there? Change, yes. Awkwardness, yes. What else? Discomfort. You want to go back to the old way. How many of you agree with that? Just please let me go back. Yes. So what's the reason? What's the point we just did this? First of all, you have a seat back down. You did great. I wanted you to have a visceral experience of what change can be like. In fact, what change is like when you are introduced to anything that is new or different. So it is awkward, it's uncomfortable, because we don't yet have the circuitry in our brain for that new behavior. So the body is needing to do something that is unfamiliar. And for the body, unfamiliar equals unsafe. Unsafe. You see, resilience to change is all about creating a sense of safety, harmony in our inside world, so that no matter what is going on around us in our families, in our organizations, in our communities, we still have that sense of safety and security and harmony on the inside. And so what you've all experienced is pretty natural, right? It is pretty natural to want to go back to the old ways. Why? Because the body wants to keep you alive. It wants you to survive. You see, we've got a conscious mind and we have an unconscious mind. So what is the unconscious mind? It's essentially anything that you're not conscious of at any moment. Right? I imagine that a moment ago you weren't very conscious of your breathing. right? Your body right now in this moment is digesting the roast beef or whatever you had, right? You're not doing that consciously, but your body's doing it for you. It's trying to keep you alive. You see, your unconscious mind doesn't care very much if you're happy. It cares that you're alive. Its prime directive, the highest, most important job for your unconscious mind is to run and preserve your body. Which is why during times of change, it's really important for us to create a sense of coherence, of safety for ourselves and to support others to do the same. So what are we going to be learning here today? Well, we're going to learn what to do in order to self-regulate our own emotional inner state so that when we are doing the awkward, uncomfortable thing that we don't yet know how to do and we don't necessarily want to do sometimes, so that we have a sense of inner harmony, so that the body can stay healthy and so that we can access that innovation and creativity that was brought up today. So what we're going to be talking about are some things that might be a little out of the box for some of you that have not yet been trained on the power of emotions, the power of the body. Yet I assure you that everything that you are learning is anchored in research. So thank you for that lovely introduction. There were a lot of things that were said there. I've even had to flip the page. And the reason I say that is because what you're learning here today is based on research out of the Institute of Heart Math, which I'm a certified practitioner of, and many other different modalities for change. And if you want more research about what we're sharing here today, more about the neuroscience, anything at all, feel free to email me. My contact information is in the folder. There's a little card there. When you flip it around, you'll see my email. Reach out to me, and I'm happy to share that with you because it's important that you get what you need. The other thing that's super cool that was mentioned is the podcast, because we only have a short amount of time together. Yet there are over 130 episodes in the Mindset Game podcast that are all about change. Many different modalities that I'm not able to share that you can get access to, conversations with experts on change, whether it's change management or individuals that are experts in the personal development arena. So I have some expertise, but please don't believe a word that I say. Don't believe me, because it wouldn't matter anyway. You see, all real learning is unconscious, it's behavioral. The only way to learn is to practice what we will be learning here today. Apply it in your life. I'll guide you exactly on how to do that. And then see for yourself whether what I share is true or not. Do we have a deal? Okay. Well, we'll first give you some incentives as to why. So let's go ahead and begin with a technique. It's called the Quick Coherence Technique. You all have a handout in your folder about this technique. And if you don't have a folder, there are some extras, and then also there are some extras of this handout. So you don't have to take notes. What I'd like you to do is to actually practice it, yes, to actually get an experience of it with me. As I said, a lot of research. In fact, this one technique has over 450 published, peer-reviewed research studies about it. Why? Because accessing a state of coherence, which this technique allows you to do in about a minute, is the state of optimal health and optimal performance, optimal creativity, optimal communication, optimal anything. Why? Because we're at our highest and best selves. This is research that's taught, of course, in many different kinds of organizations, including healthcare. Why? Because, like I said, this technique is very much about your health, but also anybody who's in the helping professions. Oftentimes what happens is that we access something called overcare. We care so much about the people in our organizations or our patients or clients that it actually hurts us, that we actually carry some of that weight and bring it home. And so we want to learn how to be able to let that go. And this technique allows you to release that stress from the body. So when you come home or when you go to bed at night, that energy is no longer in your body. We also teach it to first responders, because we want them to arrive on the scene, let's say, of an accident, right? Being totally sharp, right? Cognitively sharp, but also not in distress, right? So we want them feeling a sense of inner ease, but being able to be very sharp. We teach it to the military. Why? It's used to release PTSD. This is how powerful this stuff is. And when you practice it for about 6 weeks, you're seeing some research there from many top organizations that you're familiar with, like Cisco, Unilever, and so on. People reporting, employees reporting being tired, being exhausted, worried, anxious, annoyed. Anybody feel those emotions at all? Anybody? Of course, we all do. So practicing this technique in just a few weeks will allow you to soften that, and you're seeing that is even maintained 6 months. All right, now who's excited? Ah! All right, so this technique, like I said, very simple. Please don't allow the simplicity to fool you. Like I said, it's backed up by research, very powerful. There are 2 steps. That's it. You could teach it to a 5-year-old. All right, 2 steps. I'm going to teach the 2 steps, and then we're going to practice it. Later on, I'm going to give you some more of the research behind it. Step 1 is called heart-focused breathing. So what is heart-focused breathing? Like the name implies, we're focusing our attention in the area of the heart, and we're imagining that the breath is flowing in and out of our heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and a little deeper than usual. So why would we do that? Well, we do that because that allows the body to get physiologically into a state of balance, where the 2 branches of what's called your autonomic nervous system, which is that part of your body that does all those unconscious things I talked about, is able to be synchronized, right? Kind of like stress, relaxation, stress, relaxation. That is the state of optimal performance. We're not meant to be relaxed all day long, right? Like sitting on a beach, relaxed, and we're not meant to be stressed out all day long. The state of health is actually both. We need some stress, but not to carry it in the body. We need to feel it, get the learnings, and let it go like we're learning. So that is step number 1. You're going to find a nice, comfortable rhythm, imagining breathing in and out of the heart. Then we're going to activate a positive feeling, a regenerative positive feeling, like appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. So why would we do that? Why would we care about positive emotions? Why isn't breathing enough? Here's why. When you are genuinely experiencing a positive feeling, any positive feeling, it could be a feeling of courage, of confidence, of compassion, kindness, hope, peace, love, any emotion that feels good, what's happening is that you're getting a nice blend of chemicals into your body, from your limbic system, into every cell in your body very, very, very quickly. And the most important chemical is DHEA, which is a vitality hormone. And what it does is it offsets the cortisol, the stress that many of us are experiencing throughout the day. So it gets the body very quickly into that more optimized state. Now, what happens when that happens? We experience higher frequency in the body. Your vibrational state. Some of you may have heard that your body's basically a whole bunch of atoms, tiny, tiny little particles that are in vibration, yes? They're moving around, they're in vibration. And so as you practice coherence, that vibrational rate rises, so your frequency rises, and what happens there is that you are then radiating that energy out of your heart. What? Out of the heart? What is she talking about? Yes. Did you know that there is a field of information that surrounds you right now, 360 degrees all around you? We can't see it with our eyes, where most of us can't. But it is very real. Anybody heard of that before? I know some of you that were in the morning training, so can't. But other than the morning, people who were there in the morning training, anyone heard of that? Cool, yeah. So why is this important? Because we are going through changes in our life. So it's not only about our health and well-being, we also want to support others to be able to experience some of that ease. And as you are more coherent, other people are too. Why? Their nervous system is picking up on your energy. We can actually measure that field about 3 to 10 feet around the body using magnetometers. But we believe that that field is infinite. There are all kinds of research studies, like the Global Coherence Initiative, that shows us that that field around our body is infinite. We're connected like a spider's web, right? We're all connected. Some of you have heard that before. We actually have a lot of research to prove that that is absolutely true. How you feel impacts other people, whether you are conscious of it or they are conscious of it or not. So let's go ahead and do this together. I invite you to kind of put your pencils, folders down on the table. And we'll begin by having you first label how you are feeling in this moment right now. So I want you to go ahead and just kind of ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Maybe you're feeling ease, and calm, relaxed. Maybe there's some worry or anxiety about something. Whatever it is, it's perfect. Just give it a name. We'll learn about why that's important soon. Awesome. Now go ahead and focus your attention in the area of your heart. Now it actually helps to take your physical hand and place it over your heart or chest area if you feel comfortable to do that. And go ahead and imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area. Breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Find a nice, easy rhythm that's comfortable for you. And keep doing that as I talk. Right now, you're synchronizing your autonomic nervous system, creating a nice state of balance in your body, and preparing you for step 2. So as you continue heart-focused breathing, make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. Perhaps you can re-experience the feeling of love for someone, maybe even a pet, maybe focusing on a special place in nature, an accomplishment, or just breathing a feeling of calm and ease in and out of your heart. And just begin to notice how you're feeling. What, if anything, has shifted in these couple of minutes? Very good. So how many of you, if you feel comfortable to share, were not able to access a heart feeling? Anyone here? Thank you. Thank you for raising your hand. And I asked that question because I'm one of those people that is a very analytical individual, very heady individual. When I first learned how to do this, I wasn't quite feeling the feelings. I was thinking the feelings. So I was thinking gratitude, right? I'm grateful for my 3 daughters, for my husband, for my dog, right? All these things. But I wasn't quite feeling it. So here's a little tip to help you to really feel it. Remember a time, a specific time, when you felt a regenerative feeling. So for example, for me, I was in Thailand last week. We just got back a couple of days ago with the family. And there was a moment where I was on the beach with my mom, who was traveling from Israel to be there with us. The rest of the family were out on canoes, and I got to bond with her and talk about my dad and all kinds of things. So that's a sweet moment. So if I, in my imagination, after doing some heart-focused breathing, imagine being back there on the beach, feeling the sand under my toes, right? Feeling the air, looking at the ocean, whatever that is, I can actually feel those same feelings, because my brain remembers how I felt. Did you know that your body has remembered every single event in your life and every single feeling that you've ever had? Yeah, your unconscious mind is like a recording device. That's why in hypnosis, I'm a board-certified hypnotherapist, we can go back to events that people consciously forget, but then in hypnosis, they go back and they have a very vivid memory, including the feeling. The body does hold that score. So the idea here is that when you do these 2 steps, these 2 pretty simple steps, and you can do them in under a minute, you can change your energy. You can change how you are feeling. And not only does it improve your health and your performance in that moment, it also helps others, like I said, because you're impacting others and you're building your resilience capacity. So how many of you believe that this is true? Like how you feel really makes a difference. And I don't just mean it like metaphorically. I mean like actually making a difference to the physical reality in your life. Anyone here believes that? Yeah, cool. We have a lot of research showing that. And I want you to have another experience. So what you're about to see is a 1-minute movie. And I have a job for you. Your job is to tune in to how you are feeling as you watch this movie, all right? Notice the emotions. Notice the body sensations. Just notice what you notice. Yes? All right. There we go. Awesome. So how many of you picked up on the caption? You had a little bit of extra time because you saw that slide. How many of you remember what it said at the end of the video? What were those words? Yes. Thank you. You see the world through how you feel. So I'd love to hear from a couple of you. What happened? What did you experience in your inner world as you watched that 1-minute video? Who wants to share? Yes. Overwhelmed and then hopeful. Thank you. Anybody felt that? Kind of overwhelm in the first one? Yeah. And then sense of hope. Awesome. Anybody else want to share? Let's hear from one more. Yes. Chaotic and smooth. Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you. Why is it that it feels chaotic at the beginning and then, of course, very hopeful or very smooth at the end? Because you see the world through how you feel. So in the first half of the movie, many of you probably felt very incoherent, chaotic. Yes? You kind of like, it was like almost probably like the exercise that we did. You just wanted it to end. Anybody was like, enough. Yeah. And then that second video, right? How many of you, like, it was super quick. Like the change, the shift, the inner shift was like really fast, right? Like from stress to like harmony or relaxation. Yeah. That's how quickly it is. So your emotional state absolutely influences your perception of the world. So in one lens, right, same video, things looked very chaotic, right? And the second one looked very smooth or hopeful, right? Probably different thoughts. If you were really, operating out of that movie, probably you would have made very different decisions, right? To go to New York or not, to do certain things or not. But notice, the video was the same. You see, it is not the experiences in our life, so to speak, that make us feel the way that we feel. It's the story that we tell ourselves about those experiences, and that story is derived directly from your physiological state, from the blend of hormones that are going on in your body in that moment. Are you coherent or incoherent? When you are coherent, right, feeling ease or some positive emotion, you are more likely to see the glass half full. When you're incoherent, same thing, same people, same situation, same client, same spouse, same kids, same, traffic on the road, whatever that might be, might feel very differently. And you're going to make different decisions based on how you feel. So when we talk about emotions, there are essentially like two buckets of emotions: depleting and renewing. Notice I didn't say negative and positive. Why? Because there are no negative emotions. What? Yes, there are no negative emotions. You see, emotions are gifts. Emotions are gifts. When you are feeling an emotion, you are feeling it for a reason, because there's something for you to learn. There's some special gift. right? So if I'm feeling a depleting emotion, an emotion that doesn't feel good, that drains my battery, right? Let's say an emotion like anger. I am actually feeling it because my unconscious mind has a message for me. It's like delivering a package for me. So what is the gift in anger? The gift in anger is boundaries. If I feel angry, little light bulb goes off. I need to express my boundaries, set my boundaries, reinforce my boundaries, so that I can take better care of myself. If I feel fear, right, the gift of safety, right? Hey, Vered, there's something that you need to do here to make yourself and others even safer. If I feel anxiety, anybody here feel anxiety sometimes? Yeah, very, very common during times of change, especially because we don't have that crystal ball. So what happens is anxiety is an emotion of the future. Think about it. We're anxious about something that hasn't even happened yet. Yeah, it's in the future. It hasn't even happened, yet we're anxious. Why? Right? It's kind of silly to think about it. But the reason is because your unconscious mind, wanting to protect you so much, it creates all these kind of holographic images in your mind of all the bad stuff that could possibly happen. And then what happens is that the body then experiences that as tension. Right? The unconscious mind actually limits the blood supply to certain parts in the body because it doesn't know if you'll be safe. So every emotion comes bearing a beautiful gift. But unless we pause and really acknowledge the feeling, label it, see it, we're not able to get that gift. So renewing emotions, right, flip side of the coin, are ones that feel good. They're pleasant. Right? So anything that you had in mind, for example, when we did the technique earlier, whether you were feeling love or kindness or compassion or gratitude, that sends a different blend of neurochemicals into your body. Now, why is that important? It's important because not only for your decision-making creativity, number one, it's important for your health. This presentation could have been called Be Healthy. That's it. Because number one, this is about your health. Because your body parts are able to work together and you're able to heal much more quickly. But in addition to that, better memory, live longer, right? Better concentration, better focus, all that good stuff. Yeah? That all has to do with your emotional state. And now, back to the flip side of the coin, when you are experiencing a negative emotion, or what many of us would call a negative emotion, an emotion that depletes your battery, an emotion that doesn't feel good, what happens is that it actually creates chaos in the actual body. The organs are not communicating with each other. All your body parts are not having the conversation it needs to have. And so what happens is the body lowers in frequency, and that's when we create disease. So there's a lot more about the mind-body connection that is outside of the scope of this presentation, but if you're curious to learn about that, I've got multiple episodes in the podcast with experts, trauma experts, all kinds of physicians. I interviewed a gentleman who, it was launched about 3 weeks ago, Dr. Jeffrey Rediger, who has studied spontaneous remissions for about 20 years. And what he learned in his research, he's a Harvard-trained psychiatrist. He's head of one of the largest psychiatric clinics in the country. He also has a Master of Divinity from Princeton. What he shared is that one of the key pillars for people to be able to heal themselves and also, of course, avoid disease, prevent disease, is this resilience. It's coherence. It's the ability to manage stress. That's how people were able to heal themselves. That, and of course, changing some of the beliefs that created the condition in the first place. So the idea here is that many of us experience depleting emotions throughout the day, but we're numb to them. We're not even conscious, right? We go around sending our emails, driving around, right? Cooking dinner, picking up our laundry, right? Whatever it is, and we're not even conscious that all this chaos is going on inside of us. And so we want to become more conscious because all of those small little stressors, they do accumulate. They do accumulate, and that does impact our health. And if you're curious to know how you're doing with regards to stress, there's a stress and well-being assessment, totally free of charge. Just send me an email. Happy to send that to you. I can have somebody from my team even take 15, 20 minutes and debrief it with you. Again, no charge, just for you to understand what areas of your life need a little bit more help. A little bit more resilience, and of course, giving you some additional tools to be able to do that. So what you're seeing here is a graph of heart rate over time. And it happens to be that the husband, it could have been just the same, the wife, is connected to a sensor. This is called an inner balance sensor. It plugs onto his ear, and it measures his coherence in real time, his heart rate variability pattern. And so, right, they're going around, they're in the car, they're actually not moving, right? So they're sitting in a vehicle. The wife says something that just, pushes his buttons, and you can see that his heart rate goes up from the default, which was kind of around 60s, 70s, all the way up to the 140s. That is really high considering he's not moving. Now, fast forward a few minutes, the argument ends. Did his heart rate go back to the default? No, not yet. So what happened? Right? So the argument ends, yet he's still carrying the weight of that, right? There's still cortisol in his body. In fact, that cortisol is going to stay for 26 hours if he's not doing a technique like the quick coherence technique. And that has a lot of wear and tear on the body. So that cortisol that we've been talking about, right, that stress in the body has all kinds of effects. It impacts your immune system, of course, right? Weight gain, anything from heart disease, right? So many things, right? Stress is no surprise these days that it's impacting people. But what might be a surprise to you is that a lot of the stress is unconscious. You may not feel stressed out, but yet the body may be experiencing the stress. You're just numb to it because you're so busy. So why is that important? You're going to learn how to label emotions and to release them, right? Why? Because if we don't release them, the energy stays in the body. So just like we've said, we want to release them so that we don't experience any health issues, because 60 to 80% of doctor visits are stress-related. Right? We all know this, but that number is still really high. And a lot of experts now believe it's upwards of 95%. It's because of stress. And yet only 3 people are getting what you're getting today. So I really honor you for showing up to this presentation to learn how you can be even healthier and thrive during times of change, because that stress is a state of incoherence. So what is that incoherence? It's where your head brain and your heart brain, and yes, I'm calling your heart a brain because it actually is. There's a whole very complex neural network around your heart and also around your gut. Did you know that? You actually have 3 brains that work together, but they also work completely separate of one another, 3 intelligence centers. So your head and your heart aren't working together. So when you're experiencing a negative emotion, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're neurologically inhibited. It's called cortical inhibition, from accessing the right decision, the right response to a situation, right? Again, it also depletes your battery. Anybody feel like that guy in there? Yeah, so, and that makes change even rougher, right? Even more difficult. And, there are a lot of changes here, right? We got to hear about some of those, whether it's the infrastructure stuff, housing stuff, maybe it's about personnel, as was mentioned. I heard childcare is an issue here. Economic expansion, right? REDI, has done a lot of things. There's a lot of rapid growth. For some of your organizations, maybe with recession, inflation, maybe there's a lot of fear. People are not investing as much, so maybe it's the opposite. The idea here, in homelessness, all kinds of issues. The idea here is that because we don't have that crystal ball to know when things are going to play out the way that we want, how long it's going to take for the economy to turn around, whatever that might be, the body's experiencing uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, red blinking lights for the body, caution, caution, caution. Proceed with caution, which is why we experience a lot of emotions. And some of us just stay paralyzed. So what does that mean? Some of you may have some changes that you want to implement in your life, but it's like one step forward, one step back, one step forward, one step back, never really going anywhere. Why? It's like the head is saying, let's do this. This is a good idea. And then the heart is saying, I don't know. And then the head is saying, come on, let's do it. And the body's going, I don't know. So that also impacts our performance. Those of you that were there for the change management presentation this morning, we talked about productivity, employee productivity, our own productivity during times of change, because when we're incoherent, productivity does dip. So I do want to show you the typical change curve. The typical change curve. So what you're seeing here is a graph of productivity over time. And this is what happens when we experience anything that is new or different in our life. So you can see that the curve starts off with, if it's a change that we are not expecting, some denial, some confusion, right? That chaos that we were talking about, that the body is feeling. It's like the rug was pulled from under our feet, and we don't quite have our new grounding just yet. So what do we do in those situations? Do many of us go and meditate, go sit in nature, right? Get coherent again? Some of us do. How many of you are consciously taking actions to be more resilient, to manage your emotional state? Very cool. I see a few hands. Excellent. So after today, you have a simple tool to be able to do that very, very quickly and very effectively. So because many of us don't do that, what do we do? Right? Because there's a lot of chaos and uncertainty in the body. What we do is we go externally. Yes? So we try to hold on to whatever amount of uncertainty we can. So we try to control people, we try to control situations, right? We get very angry and defensive and frustrated and irritated with people. We blame people. Does that help? Not really, right? Maybe it'll make us feel better in the moment, but it doesn't actually help. It doesn't actually allow the body to experience the ease that it needs to experience in order to embrace the change, in order for us to adapt to the change and ultimately thrive as a result of it. So because it doesn't work, we dip further. Our morale dips, right? Our productivity dips into sadness, depression, despair. If some of you have been there, or you know somebody who's been there, then you know it's not a good feeling. And this is the number one reason that change programs fail, personal or professional change. It's because of our human resistance to change. It's because we don't pay enough attention to those thoughts and emotions. So I did pull one slide from the change management training for those of you who were not there, so you see the same curve through an organizational lens. So what you're seeing here is, again, productivity over time, but you're seeing that as productivity goes down, resistance goes up, right? It's the inverse. So the more resistance, the less productive people are. You are, right, when you're resistant. So the moment that a change is announced, or even a rumor of a change starts to, kind of trickle out a little bit, productivity starts to dip. Why? Because of that chaos in the body. You've all experienced it. Right? We don't know what we're doing. It's awkward, right? We want to go back to the old ways. And then, right, what happens is we get into a little bit of worry and uncertainty. And if we either have support from our leaders or we ourselves, self-leadership, right, practice coherence, manage our own state, then and only then can we begin to see the upward side of the curve, where we experience still some fear and uncertainty, but less so, right? We're beginning to make the unfamiliar patterns more familiar, right? The unfamiliar situations, environments more familiar. And as we do that again and again and again, that awkward, unfamiliar thing, it starts to begin to be more familiar, more comfortable, more safe. And then we can get excited about the change and ultimately see the benefits of the change. So it's all about coherence. It's all about coherence. But before we can even choose to practice a technique like the quick coherence technique in the moment, we need to become conscious of our emotions, yes? Like, how could I know that I'm feeling stressed unless I pause and I'm actually labeling it? Because I might just be too busy. So we must pause. We must pause to label what is actually going on in our inner world. And that creates that choice point. So if I pause for a moment, like you did at the beginning of the presentation, and I ask myself, what am I feeling right now? Is it a depleting emotion or a renewing emotion? Is there a lot of intensity or is it lower intensity? Maybe I'll even give it a name. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling concerned. I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling whatever it is that I'm feeling. That creates a choice point. Because if I'm conscious of the fact that, let's say, I have some anxiety going on about something, then I can pause do some heart-focused breathing, activate a regenerative emotion, get my body coherent again, send a different, smoother signal up to my head brain that allows me to respond to that situation in the highest and best way. Yet many of us are very uncomfortable labeling our emotions, especially the heavy-duty ones, like shame, regret, guilt, resentment, betrayal, abandonment, and the list can go on and on and on. So I'm going to share a quick story now that will really illustrate this. And it's a story about an old Cherokee Indian who was basically sharing some tips, some guidance for his little grandson. And he said to the boy, you know, there's this battle going on inside of me. And it's a battle between two wolves. One wolf represents kind of negative or depleting emotions, yes? So like fear, anger, sadness, right? Hurt, guilt, shame, doubt, right? All of these kinds of emotions that don't feel so good. And then there's also this lighter wolf that represents these regenerative feelings, like compassion, hope, joy, happiness, peace, and so on. So of course, little kid asks, Grandpa, who's going to win the battle? What do you think? Some of you may have heard this before. Who's going to win the battle? The one you feed the most. That's what I used to believe too. But it's actually not true. So let me explain. You actually want to feed them both. So I've had a lot of experience in working, studying and working with trauma, releasing some pretty major PTSD, helping clients with all kinds of things. And what I know to be absolutely true is that you need to feed all the wolves inside of you. So let's talk about that. If I only feed the light one, right? Positive emotions, positive feelings, look at the bright side of things. What's the silver lining? Then what is actually happening? Is my dark wolf going away? No. No, it gets stored in the body. We've already said this. It actually gets stored as an energy ball in the body. And what happens is if we don't do the work to release it, that lower frequency, right, all the organs around it lower in vibration, and that manifests as disease. That is why almost all conditions are stress-related. So if I only feed the light one, the dark one is going to be hiding. Why? He's got a gift for me. Remember we said emotions come bearing gifts. Creativity, innovation, but I can't access them until I feel the feeling, until I label it. And that dark wolf is going to wait until a moment when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm stressed out, when I'm weak, when I'm tired, when I'm sick, and it's going to attack. Why? Because it loves me. It wants to give me the message about how to better care for myself. So if I ignore it, if I don't pause to label my feelings, then I will never get the memo. And the universe will need to continuously create, my unconscious mind will need to continuously create more events that will make me feel that way so that I finally get the message and wake up. So if I acknowledge all of my emotions, that dark wolf will feel accepted, he will feel seen, and he will be able to give me the wisdom. But many of us don't know that because we haven't been trained, and we didn't have a technique like the quick coherence technique to know how to shift our state once we label. But you now do. Yet many people hide, repress, right, reject, right? Let me just not look at that. Let's focus on the happy stuff, right? But again, that doesn't work. So when we kind of ask ourselves or sometimes others, how are you doing? What's the typical answer, right? I'm fine, I'm good, things are great. Maybe stress, but not really going to the level of usually emotions, right? How often do we hear a coworker or somebody saying, you know, I'm actually depressed? Yet many of us are experiencing it. That's what research is showing. So we need to feed them both. That's when we'll get the gifts. So how do we feed them both? Let's go back to what we've already learned and anchor it even more. We want to pause to label how we feel. So I invite you from this point on to set a reminder. There are also all kinds of apps. I'll mention one of them in a moment. To actually just pause for a second and just say, hey, what am I feeling right now? Is it renewing or depleting, right? Is it intense or is it kind of more mild? Just even go that far. If you want, give it a name, even better. Notice what's happening in the body. Am I feeling tension? Am I feeling some vibration, some stress, some pain? What is going on? Just labeling the emotions. This is what we see in fMRIs. Just labeling your emotions in the moment already deactivates the kind of more intense charge. Allowing more energy to go to your prefrontal cortex, which is your kind of higher analytical, more executive mind, to be able to make better decisions. So the app that I recommend is called the Mood Meter, M-O-O-D, the Mood Meter, M-E-T-E-R. It costs 99 cents. It was created by the head of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and it will allow you in the moment to label how you feel using this kind of color grid. You'll see it's pretty simple, but it's a quick way to be able to just tune inward. So I asked you earlier, how many of you do some stuff to build your resilience capacity? I'd love to just very quickly hear from a couple of you. What do you do to build your resilience, to manage your emotions? Yes. Climbing, awesome, very good. Physical exercise. Anybody else? Walk a lot. Thank you. Very good. Very good. So we're seeing like some physical resilience, right? There's also, of course, eating right. Of course, we've talked about exercise. There's also conditioning our mind, right? Listening or reading things that are positive for us. Gratitude journals, just pausing to be grateful. Sleep is a big one. Of course, all of you know this, being out in beautiful nature that you have here. Anything from yoga, meditation, any kind of self-care is important. So anytime that you are wanting to get resilient, right, or practicing these things, what's actually happening is you're creating that state of coherence. So let's talk a little bit about the science of that, and then we'll complete here with a specific kind of invitation for all of you. So coherence, we've already said, is that optimal state of performance and health. So I want you to think of a high-performing rowing team, yeah? Right, you got all the people in the boat, right? Somebody on the boat at the end says, stroke, stroke, stroke. And what's everybody doing at the same time? Yeah, they're dipping their oars in the water at the exact same time, right? They're all at the same pace. They're all in sync with each other, and that boat just flies. It's the same thing in your body. When you're practicing this technique, what's actually happening is that all of the different systems in your body, right? We've already talked about the immune system, your hormonal system, your digestive, cardiovascular, nervous systems, all of them are working together like a beautiful symphony. And that is the state of health. So when you are experiencing a depleting emotion, what is actually happening in the body is that you have a very chaotic pattern going from your heart up to the brain. So it's like a pattern that you're seeing there on the left side. When you practice the technique, when you shift and reset, in moments, it shifts to that nice smooth pattern, which allows you to be able to think more clearly, to make better decisions, and of course, to be more healthy. So it's all about the pattern that's going up to your brain, which is why emotions are so important. When I'm incoherent, when that chaotic, irregular pattern is going up to my brain, I simply can't think clearly. I may think I'm thinking clearly, but I'm not. And that's a problem, because most of my decisions are actually made at a heart level. They're not made at the head brain. They're made at the heart brain. Did you know that? Over 95% of your decisions are made at the heart. The information then travels up the vagal nerve to your head brain, where it becomes conscious, and then there's a body response. So what does that mean? You want to manage your emotions so that there's a nice, good pattern going up to your brain that allows you to think clearly. All right, so as we complete here, let's practice coherence one more time. And as we do this, I invite you to first label how you are feeling in this moment right now. Just go ahead and give it a name. If you want, you can write it down or just think of it. And I want you all to also label how you want to feel. Set that intention. Maybe you want to feel exactly the same way that you're feeling. Maybe you want to even intensify that some more, or maybe you want to shift and reset to something else. Good. Now, before we begin, I invite you to remember a time when you felt the way that you want to feel. a specific time. So if, let's say, I wanted to feel joy, I'd remember a moment where I felt joy. If I wanted to feel confident or energized, I'd remember a specific time in my life where I felt confident or energized. So think of a specific time. I'll give you a few more moments. And the reason I invited you to think of that is after we do step 1, which is that heart-focused breathing, I invite you to imagine in your mind actually being back at that moment. If you'd like, you can close your eyes. That can make it easier, right? You can see what you saw, hear what you heard. Your body will get the exact same chemical cocktail as you had in that real moment in your life. That is the expressway to feeling the way that you want to feel. Cool? Any questions before we start? All right, so let's begin. Go ahead and focus your attention in the area of your heart. Imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Find a nice, easy rhythm that's comfortable for you. Now make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. Or imagine going right back to that event that you thought of. And just begin to notice how you're feeling. This is a practice, of course, like anything else, but just notice what, if anything, has shifted in this minute or two that you've been doing this. So as we complete here, I want to show you what will happen when you practice. Oh, somehow went backwards. Sorry about that. What will happen when you practice this? What you're seeing here is another one of those graphs of heart rate over time. This time it's a police officer who's wearing that sensor again. So he is in a domestic violence situation. You can see he's encountering an angry man. Heart rate shoots up very, very, very high into the 150s, 170s. But notice what happens. This individual has been trained in the exact training that you have received today. He learned the quick coherence technique, and he'd been practicing it 3 to 4 times every single day, just taking under 10 minutes a day. Notice what happens. He was able to, at the event lasted about 5 minutes, his heart rate went significantly down, and then about 5 minutes later, he did a quick coherence and completely went down to his default heart rate. Before the training that you've all received, he carried that for 1 hour and 20 minutes. It took him 1 hour and 20 minutes to go back to his default heart rate, again, causing wear and tear in his body. Pretty cool, huh? This is after 3 weeks of practice. So if any of you want an inner balance sensor, you can go to heartmath.com and get one. If you want one at no shipping, there's a QR code if you want. This is not a magic pill. You've got to practice this 3 to 4 times a day because change will happen. And we're going to need to go out of our comfort zone, right? So we might feel some pressure. We might feel some disappointment about things. And that's cool, right? Pause, label how you're feeling, see the wolf. See the wolf. The wolf is just some deeper part of you that wants to be seen and heard. Get coherent. Take 1 precious minute to get coherent, to shift your state, to be able to give your body not only health, but also the joy and ease that you deserve to be feeling at any moment, and also to give that gift to others. So I mentioned to you, if you want that assessment and a complimentary debrief, just go ahead and send an email and let me know that you want that, and we'll arrange that for you. I thank you for your participation. And if you have any questions, I'm going to stay back a little bit after the end of this training. Happy to help in any way. Thank you.
I think you can stay up here because we might get a couple questions.
I love it. Yes.
Thank you so much, Fred, for everything, for that insightful presentation. And thanks to everyone here for participating in that. I know it's not always easy. It's a little intimidating, but especially for those people who raised their hands, answered your questions. A little bit of a reverse now. We're going to ask you guys, if you have any questions for Fred, we have time for just a few. Please raise your hand. We have some roaming microphones, and we'll bring them over to you so you can ask. Anyone? There we go. Over there. I think we have a microphone coming your way.
One moment, John. One moment.
Oh, we'll
Hold
scream.
on.
I love it.
Hold on, John. 1 second.
All right, thanks, Matt. Question, this practice is a lot like meditation. Can you talk about the interface of meditation and this sort
Absolutely.
of preparation?
Great question. So meditation is there to activate what we call the parasympathetic branch of your autonomic nervous system. So again, autonomic nervous system, ANS, that is that part of your body that is running your body unconsciously. Yes, that's digesting your food, breathing you as you sleep, and so on and so forth. It has two branches, parasympathetic, which is the kind of rest and digest relaxation response, and the sympathetic, which is the stress response. All right? So what meditation does, most meditations, it activates what we call the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, allowing your body to feel more ease, to feel more relaxed. Coherence is different. Coherence is synchronization. So let me use a metaphor. So think of a car. You've got the gas pedal and you've got the brake pedal. So sympathetic is like the gas pedal, right? Go, 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 right? The stress response. Parasympathetic is like the brake pedal. Slow down. So the state of coherence, research has shown, is not to always be in parasympathetic, in the relaxation response. It's actually to have a synchronization, a balance between relaxation and stress. So that is why coherence is different than meditation. Yeah. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have a question? All right.
I've got one, real
Yes.
quick one.
Yes.
The really dramatic change in watching that movie when the soundtrack changed. So talk about the importance of the auditory cues, that kind of stimuli in the world around us, and the importance of paying attention to them.
Absolutely. So auditory cues are very important, but all kinds of cues are very important. So let me go back to the movie, right? We all saw that it was the same video, of course, just a different soundtrack. That soundtrack was very purposeful to induce certain emotions, right? Because we're here in a training, right? We don't want to really stress you out with real life stuff, right? So we wanted to induce kind of in a safe way for you to feel some tension, right? Some of that stress, and also some of that relaxation or hopefulness or smoothness, if you will. And so the music, the soundtrack, is very important. And so many of us have playlists, or maybe you listen to certain music. You can even listen to certain inspiring, relaxing music as you practice coherence that will allow you to be able to access that state of coherence more quickly. Even looking at photos, so visual cues, right? Looking at photos or videos from your phone of times that felt really good, right? Like vacation memories or anything like that. That also will help you to get into a coherent state, kind of like asking the question that I asked about a previous event where you felt the way you want to feel. So yes, we can utilize our different senses in order to access a state of coherence. There are many doors to do that, but really at the end of the day, it is about feeling a positive regenerative feeling. So when you are feeling a positive feeling, that allows you to essentially be in that second half of the movie, to be able to perceive things in that lighter, more positive way. And when you do that, then you can imagine possibilities. You're giving your unconscious mind permission to imagine or visualize what could happen, right? So that no matter what is going on, right, not only are you in the moment shifting your state, but you're allowing your mind to consider possibilities, right? Innovation, creativity, and allowing energy to enter in through your heart to be able to make better decisions. So does that answer your question? Yeah, I even have one of the podcast episodes is with a woman named Susan Drum, who wrote a New York Times best-selling book called The Leader's Playlist, where she talks about how different playlists, and she actually has different playlists, to feel certain feelings. So if I want to feel confident, guess what? I might find a song that makes me feel confident. And I would do that as I'm breathing in and out of my heart and activating a state of confidence because my body's already primed for that. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. One more round of applause for Vered.
Thank you.
Also, a reminder that you have handouts on your table if you want to take some of these notes with you from that Vered's presented here. And also remember the podcast, which is Mindset Game. Is that correct?
Mindset Game. So if you go to
Mindset Game.
mindsetgame.com, or if you search my name, Vered Kogan, on YouTube, you will see most of the episodes we have on video as well if you prefer it that way.